Hey, let me chat about a Witch, or I guess what is known in the UK and Nigeria as What Sunny Saw in the Flames. It is a 2011 YA fantasy by Nede Okorafor, a American-born writer of Nigerian with Nigerian parents and someone who's kind of spent a lot of time in Nigeria. Um, it tells the story of Sunny, who had was born in the States, lived there for the first 9 years, and then her Nigerian parents take her back to Nigeria, where she discovers that she is part of the leopards, a magical group, as distinct from non-magical users in this world, which are the lambs. She has a vision of of a flame where she sees the end of the world, which greatly disturbs her and gets alluded throughout this kind of coming of age novel. Sort of, she goes to school. Basically, she gets a double life where she is learning about her abilities, all that. She's introduced to it through Orlo, who introduces her to Chi-Chi, who introduces her to initiates her, and she becomes initiated into as a leopard. She is an albino girl, and also because she's also sort of culturally American but also Nigerian, she's able to kind of, her power seems to be as a ghost, able to pass through things, but also to be able to kind of bridge that gap between the material world and the spiritual world. Um, Ostensibly, throughout this book, there's there's all this talk of Black Hat, who is a ritual serial killer who is killing children throughout the story, and we hear about we hear about children either being killed or like their eyes gouged out or their ears cut off um, throughout the story. And Sunny's father is abusive. He is, threatens to beat her. She gets slapped by her mother. Um, we do see scenes of, like, when the leopard people get together in a Zuma thing, that they have these battles, and some of these battles are to the death. But the one we see, it's like the person. It's a positive thing that the person dies. So I came to Neda Korafor through Binti, that series, where it's a girl who finds that she has kind of special powers and stuff like that. She's going to go off to kind of tech school, but Neda Korafor isn't really interested in that kind of for lack of better reference, Harry Potter going to magic school and learning your magic stuff. She's not really interested in that, at least in Binti, and we skip that and we get into darker, a much darker but kind of more um, messy story that kind of fits that character of Binti. In this one, we get a little bit more of that kind of the magical stuff, where the various children find their mentors. We have there's a cool soccer game in this book, so we get some of that magical stuff, and we have this villain who, um, by the end of this novel, it's one of these things of like, oh, this isn't the real villain. The real villain's still out there, stuff, and the villain just sort of gets dispensed with, kind of with a hand wave, which kind of makes it unsatisfying. I know that I can see that Okorafor is going for sort of different stuff here, different ideas, and I really like the characters. I like the world, but I kind of came away from it rather just narratively unsatisfied. It's like there's a sense of like, well, if you weren't really interested in having the big bad villain, if you weren't really interested in that, well, then why have it in the book in the first place, unless you're going to replace it with something else? And I think that's the thing, is that I think it's Sunny coming into herself, Sunny learning about family, which is supposed to be the big kind of thing for this book, but it wasn't really there for me. I feel like she didn't have enough time. It's like this should have been a longer book. Now there is a sequel to this book, Akata Warrior, which came out I think in 2017, so like 6 years later. She did actually circle around to revisit Sunny and perhaps finish the story, because in some ways this does not feel like particularly a finished story. So maybe my opinion of the book will change as I go on to Akata Warrior. But at this point, it's like I really like the characters. I really like the world, Juju being kind of the magic in this world, the various abilities. It's interesting that one of the things when you get initiated as a leopard, you cannot tell anybody outside of that, and that means like family. It's like, her mother, her Sunny learns that her grandmother was also a leopard, but her mother never knew and didn't know like any details about it. And there's sort of rules down for that as to why, but it's just like, it's one of these things of like, it's just really shitty. It's really horrible. And I mean, maybe that's like a measure of what knowledge and power is that it can sometimes cut you off from the ones that you love. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, it's an interesting concept, and it's not making for the most happy life. And there's just, Okorafor is really good here of showing, a society that really, women are not equals in this society, that her brothers are treated a different way by her father. Her father, will, threaten physical violence towards her. You can see that is a way of life here, which is somewhat shocking, which is kind of hilarious coming from like a Western culture, which is suffused in violence. But it's like, oh my God, you're going to hit children? That's terrible. It's like, yeah, but we're going to do all these horrible other things to children. So I recognize the hypocrisy in that. It's just, it's like, it was unsettling to me reading it as a white childless adult in Canada. So that is my thoughts on Akata Wtch by Nnedi Okorafor. She's really, really good writer, really interesting stuff. I can't help but feel narratively unsatisfied with what I've got so far from the book. Like, I can see what she was going for. I think she does it better in Binti, a later work by her, and maybe it's coming to this second is maybe why I feel dissatisfied, because I think Binti has a lot of the great character work and had a bit more interesting complete story, even within the various sections of those novellas. This, I think, is supposed to be kind of like, it should be like a short novel length, but it just doesn't bring it together for me. All right, more videos later.